everyone, I'm Forrest McFreelava, and this is Speedplay Germany and Hearts of Iron 4, number 17. We left off invading Colombia, it just capitulated, we move a decent portion of our forces back to Panama, and we're going to try to launch some invasions out of Japan because they gave us tons of expeditionary units, and we're going to try to just manually take over all of the islands of Indonesia, since the Japanese just kind of don't want to do their job in this regard. So we're going to go ahead and set all of this up. I know this entire area isn't Indonesia, I guess we could just say the South Pacific. So we're going to attack all the islands in the South Pacific, hopefully manage to just break all of these countries. We will eventually have to dedicate a significant amount of naval assets to that campaign and theater and whatnot, and it may actually prove to be a decent idea for us to... Now, one, we're building a lot of U-boats. It may be a decent idea for us to just sort of break off a force, maybe even stop producing capital ships and just focus on U-boats to get our troops over in the first place. We are in the midst of an invasion of Ecuador. Italy declared war on them, so we can expect them to capitulate to the Italians and just kind of mess up our full control over South America. Besides all of that, though, we aren't really facing very much in the way of difficulty attacking places. Now, this terrain isn't really great for invading with armored columns, and we are attacking Venezuela now as opposed to inviting them to our faction, simply because I don't really see much of a point in keeping Venezuela on board. We can also invite Peru in. I don't really want to do that. However, the invasion is kind of bogging down, and we're covering so much territory that we're going rather slowly. The unfortunate effect that this has is essentially bogging us down. We have conquered so much of the world so quickly, and now in the hinterlands of South America, we're just going so much slower than anywhere else. It's rather unfortunate. My original plan had been for us to just kind of pave over all of South America, conquering just everything available to us. And we'll still try to conquer as much as possible. Ecuador just surrendered, and they capitulated to us, which is great news, which means we can move our forces up to other borders. I believe we have something like 44 divisions or regiments or what have you. 44 units of force inside South America right now, just advancing forward. And we are advancing forward, that's the key bit. Some areas not so much because of terrain or whatever issues. We can't utilize our Air Force, which is actually a major stumbling block since we don't really have artillery in our armored or motorized units. We were really just reliant on having our aircraft act as close air support and give us aerial superiority in that way. That didn't really come through as well as I was hoping. It did definitely in Europe and in North America. Not so much in the hinterlands of South America. Now, that's kind of an obvious statement and one which probably should have been anticipated before this invasion. So I don't really have anything to say to that other than I messed that bit up a little. That being said, we are making some level of progress. We did basically just overrun the mainstay, or the lion's share of Venezuela. I believe we have most of their victory points under control. It's just a matter now of taking over enough of their territory to just trigger their capitulation, which hopefully will happen in the relatively near future. That being said, we haven't really even advanced into Brazil, and it's really just taking us quite a while longer than I would have liked. All of these forests, as it turns out, aren't really conducive to motorized, mechanized, what have you operations. We are going to take their new interim capital, though, which is going to be pretty nice. They don't seem to have any troops nearby, so we are making decent gains, nevertheless, although just at a slower clip than I would have liked. We are even playing this video back at a slightly higher rate than usual. We did manage to make Venezuela capitulate. Hopefully we can just run in through the areas where none of their forces currently are and just advance the line significantly further. All of Guyana we're hopefully going to just overwhelm with minimal resistance, although they may very well end up resisting. They're just not on the border at present. We will see how that ends up going. We're also advancing pretty much everywhere. It looks as though none of these naval invasions are really going to pan out. We have to send our navy over to support them. And really, the invasion of the Philippines is going to be the thing that determines whether or not this is going to be successful. Also, a little while ago, we had something like 1,000 extra convoys. Now it looks like we have significantly less, or significantly fewer, available. And I'm not entirely sure where those are all going. Probably just logistical support for, quite frankly, a massive series of invasions that we're producing, or attempting to get through. We also have just a tremendous number of units all throughout Asia. For whatever reason, the AI decided that they would rather have, Germans garrisoning their country than their own forces, or at least allow the Germans to have the lead in that. I mean, since we are the Germans, I can't really find fault with that, although it is just sort of odd. Also, something or other is probably still going on in Africa. I more or less just forget about that theater whenever there's really anything else going on in the world, which there is with our very slow invasion. We also go ahead and upgrade our aircraft production, since we have been making some obsolete models for quite some time now, and there's really no excuse for that anymore. Hopefully in the near-ish future we will manage to get up to jet aircraft, and hopefully those will have enough range that we'll actually be able to utilize them in this invasion of Latin America. Whether or not that actually ends up pulling through remains to be seen, but it is a worthwhile thing. I'm also at this point really starting to consider that there may be a better alternative than just rolling our armored units through the forests of South America and vaguely hoping that we will eventually overwhelm them. Since at this rate, it'll probably take us maybe 3 or 4 more episodes to actually overrun Brazil, and also we have to deal then with all of the Pacific areas. So we're going to go ahead and set up naval invasions, and hopefully just bypass that whole process. We're going to invade Uruguay and Brazil, split these into 2 groups of 10 troops each. Hopefully that will manage to get launched, defeat Uruguay, defeat Brazil, end the war in Latin America. At this point, it's kind of dragged on so long, I kind of had anticipated that we would have won the war entirely at this point and be dealing with the peace conference. That is quite clearly not the case, so we may go for a more limited series of objectives in South America. We are at present trying to find more naval units so that we can get naval superiority for this invasion of South America. I am not in any way looking forward to invading all of Oceania. All we really have to defeat right now are Brazil, Uruguay, South Africa, which admittedly, yes, Africa is still a theater that we have to deal with, and they are in fact invading even more. So South Africa, Brazil, the Philippines, Australia, New Zealand, and Uruguay, if I didn't mention them before. We go ahead and invite Peru into our faction. I had wanted to keep the faction more or less pure without any Latin American countries getting involved. At this point, I would much rather have them help us than spend another several hours invading Latin America. So there is justification in that. And besides, I don't think they're really going to contribute so much that they'll be able to demand all that much in the war score or in the peace deal, or have enough war score to do really anything. I could be proven wrong, though. That remains to be seen. And we are getting a decent bit of control over the area set up. We will really just have to see how this all pans out. I am kind of regretting declaring on Brazil, since that's really the only reason we have to invade them right now, and it's going so tediously. Ironically, it's pretty much proves that my attempted invasion of Brazil in order to facilitate an invasion of the United States by just rolling through Latin America up into the US was a really bad idea, and it's incredibly fortuitous that instead of doing that, we ended up just invading through Canada and rolling on through that area. Also, our first Marine divisions are ready to go. We have something like 6 of those. So once we manage to get a firmer control over our naval elements, find out where all of our submarines actually are, where our surface navy actually is. Once we manage to figure all that out and hopefully also clean up this front in Africa, we will be able to hopefully launch an invasion of Oceania. Hopefully we will manage to get our 20 other armored and motorized units to land in Uruguay and the actual capital area of Brazil. Hopefully we will be able to bring this all to a successful resolution It just remains to be seen how that will pan out. We also need to go ahead and set our aerial units to try to help us really in any way. We have a very oddly small number of close air support units in reserve, which is a little worrying but not actually a problem. The main thing is that our overland offensive is proving not to be the solution to the South America campaign. It looks as though the actual solution is going to be bred from a mix of our naval units, potentially Marines in the future, not so much right now since we don't have any committed to the theater. But yeah, so naval invasions. That's going to be how we bring this war to a close. We can't very well overland invade the South Pacific, so that is kind of an obvious thing we were going to have to pick up. I was just hoping that we could use our land forces to defeat the South Americans. In that, we are more or less wrong, but hopefully when we come back in next episode, we'll be able to bring this continent to heel and move on. Thank you very much for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe. Have a great day. We are so close to victory.